You know where Honokaa is? Way up, long drive from there. Our speaker for today took off from there this morning, drove down here just to speak to us. Reverend Eric is well known in the area, and he's come and spoken to us a few times before, and it's always guaranteed going to be an interesting, joyful, good talk that he'll give to all of us for today. Putting you on the spot, man. Ladies and gentlemen, please, Reverend Eric.
Aloha. So how does this prosperity stuff work? One of my college classes was off campus at Synagogue Beth Shalom. I felt excited and nervous about the history of Jewish mysticism with one of my favorite professors, Dr. Joseph Schultz. I sat down in the front row next to a woman with white hair. Before Dr. Schultz began his introduction, I looked over my shoulder. Most of the class were senior citizens. They knew him as Rabbi Schultz, and they didn't need college credit. As he began to talk about the class, the woman noticed that I didn't have that first assigned book. And I whispered to her, "I haven't gotten it yet." She enthusiastically gave me her copy. "You can have mine." I declined. She insisted. I offered to pay. She refused. She gave me that book. You see, I had put offering in the offering plate at Unity Temple the day before, not sure how I would get that book the next week. The generous interaction became a powerful demonstration for me. I live in a world of abundance. You live in a world of abundance. But what is your money story? With our feet in the human world and our minds on spirit, today we'll explore the idea of money. Connected with sacred power, we may also apply our many spiritual abilities to produce beneficial outcomes in our lives. Today, we're playing with money. Remember that? The green stuff? I have a little. This morning, we'll explore common myths about money and reframe our money story with divine ideas. Let us affirm this morning, I am open, let me try that again. I open fully to divine circulation in my life as money. Will you join with me? I open fully to divine circulation in my life as money. In 2 Kings 4:42-44 is a story of the prophet Elisha feeding 100 people. A man came from Baal Shalisha, bringing food from the first fruits to the man of God. 20 loaves of barley and fresh ears of grain in his sack. Elisha said, "Give it to the people and let them eat." But his servant said, "How can I give this to 100 people?" And so Elisha repeated, "Give it to the people and let them eat. For thus says the Lord, they shall eat and have some left." And he set it before them. They ate and had some left, according to the word of the Lord. Various stories of multiplication are actually common in the Hebrew Scriptures. The stories of the prophet Elijah and Elisha include bread, grain, water, and oil, all seeming miracles of increase. And in each story, there was extra. It's a concept that's frankly seemingly difficult to reconcile with poverty and the realities of the human experience? What about economic inequality and its links to patriarchy, privilege, and capitalism? Let's consider health, its physical and sacred links. Think about finances. It too has physical and spiritual connections. What is the spiritual message of money? A money story or a money script are said to be the lessons that we absorbed as children. Some authors suggest that it's those ideas that influenced you as a 3 or 4-year-old. Others suggest that you must understand your grandparents in order to understand your parents and your formation about money. So think with me for a moment. What are some of your core memories? What did you hear? What did you see? What did you feel about money? Was there tension or was there ease in your family? My own money story begins with the idea of cash as a serious, sometimes secretive topic. My family in central Missouri valued education and generosity, but also self-reliance and cautious spending. Saving and finding deals were highly praised. Think farm auctions and garage sales. I watched Grandpa negotiate some very surprising deals. Grandpa spent his childhood on a nearby farm in the 1930s. Some of you can relate to this. When he would share stories about his family, he usually ended it the same way, but we didn't know we were poor. He implied that they were unfortunate, but they were really blessed. Through the Great Depression, that family with 9 children held acres of fertile land, a house with a radio, livestock, tractors, and cars. You see, my family, like many families, denied their privilege. A great-grandfather purchased another farm in the 1930s. It had been a foreclosure, meaning that another family had lost the farm to debt. That house in Anchorage became a gift to his daughter and her new husband, my grandparents. Today, this inheritance remains in the family. Maybe the ideas of limits, caution, and secrets are in your money story too. You know, the first time I heard Karen Drucker's song, "Money is Coming to Me," I felt shocked, and I dismissed it as not spiritual. It actually took me years not to skip that song on the CD, and now I sing it with enthusiasm. So, what are some of the common attitudes and beliefs about money? These are some familiar myths. Money is limited. One of the beliefs that many of us hold is that pie idea of money. If I have more, I deprive somebody else. But here's the thing, if you enjoy health, it doesn't deprive me of health. If I'm joyously in love, it doesn't mean that you're suddenly excluded from love. When it comes to wealth, we forget that divine truth. Another myth is that money is accessible. It's available to everyone. Everyone has the same opportunity. But that too is a myth because societal privilege is denied. There's a myth that money is simply negative. It's bad or evil. It's tied to judgment, shame, and guilt. Money is worldly. It's not spiritual. That idea that you can't serve God and money, that actually comes from the Bible too. And that idea that money is value-based, it affects our self-worth. That idea that maybe I shouldn't really desire something. Maybe I shouldn't have what I really want. We may have been taught not to talk about money, pretending that we don't want it, even though we do. And if we have money, we either flaunt it or we keep it a secret. And if we have a little, you might boast about that too, talking about how poverty is making you a good person or a strong person. Or we might hide that. It's a confusing and contradictory list, isn't it? What is money all about? This list is untruths. Are we ready to move on from the untruths and the falsehoods? Do you recall the story of Jesus feeding the 5,000? John 6 tells how Jesus went to the other side of the Sea of Galilee with a large crowd following him, presumably because they were in awe of his miracles. Jesus climbs a mountain and sits with his disciples. And when he looked up, he saw a large crowd coming towards him. And Jesus asked Philip, "Where are we to buy bread for all of these people?" Philip knew they didn't have enough money. The disciple Andrew pointed out a boy with 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. And Jesus directed, "Make the people sit down." So 5,000 people sat down for a picnic. Jesus took the loaves and fish and then gave thanks. The food was distributed, and when the disciples gathered up the extras, they filled 12 baskets. The people began to call Jesus a prophet. Do you see the connection to that Hebrew story? This is another story of abundance, like those stories from the Hebrew scriptures. And for this crowd, bread and fish were more valuable than money. I'm not concerned with the question, is this a description of an actual event? There were 5,000 people. This exaggerated narrative in John is likely based on an early oral tradition circulating in Christian communities. And similar versions of this story are found in other Gospels. Like the Hebrew stories, I want to know what this food miracle means for us. Fish are said to symbolize inexhaustible ideas, and bread, the very substance of life. Does the story suggest that all things are possible? Does it imply that abundance is feasible because we live in a plentiful universe? And don't you love that leftovers are a symbol of prosperity? Where did Ernest Holmes and other New Thought leaders get this idea of prosperity? The Bible. Verses from the Hebrew and Christian scriptures about holy increase, the stories of miracles. They repeated that Jesus is said to have spoken, "I came that they may have life and have it abundantly." Holmes and others believed we are meant to thrive. Now, money is still highly manipulated in our society, and it's not readily available to everyone. We're more aware of societal privilege, and changes are always in progress. But still, many of us feel uncomfortable with this topic. This morning, we're turning a corner. What do you want your money story to be? What do you want your money story to be? We can reframe our beliefs and our attitudes with truths about spirit and wealth. Here are some truths about money. Money is abundance-centered. In the infinite, there is no lack. It is impossible There is only one presence and one power active in the universe and in our lives, the source of all good. This is the zone where there is more than enough. And in fact, it is an opulent, extravagant, lavish abundance. Money is sacred. It is, as everything in the world, sacred. That idea of money is spiritual. Money is also spiritual based in us. As spiritual beings, we deserve good in our lives, and it can be expressed as money. Money is energy. This is the idea that it responds to our consciousness, just as do our bodies and the world of our activities. We can energize it with our beliefs and feelings. We can realize that money is a tool for self-expression, and our beliefs and feelings calm and align with the flow. Money is an effect. It is produced by a cause, a thought, a feeling, or an action, and it is meant to be circulated. That's how this process works. As part of the divine idea of circulation, money flows in, we keep some, and we release some with ease, knowing that it is always in circulation. And we can play with money in healthy ways. We can make a difference with our money. This list, which includes abundance, sacred energy, and effect, is much more encouraging, I think. Today, I'm still giving thanks for the bags of lemons, limes, and oranges given to us by friends from their orchard. Now, no money was exchanged, but a shared lunch is also an expression of abundance. Are you ready for a healthy relationship with money? What are some examples of abundance in your life? How does your life reflect your ideas about money? Reverend Edwin Gaines committed her life to transforming humanity's perception of abundance. In her book, The 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity, she writes, "We have to learn to be masters of our money and not let it be a master of us. We must realize that the power to bring about real and positive change in the world is not in gold bullion, stocks, or bonds. Instead, the power is within us as children of God at the level of our spirituality." How have you adjusted your thoughts about prosperity? How does your life reflect your ideas about money? How do you play with money? These are sensitive questions for many of us, yet extremely helpful when we reveal new understandings about our lives. Our belief about money often comes with those detrimental theories, common myths about money from our families and culture. We remember that plenty exists. We accept the idea that there is more than enough in the world. I invite you to affirm with me again. I open fully to divine circulation in my life as money. Together, I open to divine circulation in my life as money. How are you called to action? This week, you may want to make some notes. Claim your abundance. Join in the flow. Share your generosity. Become a sage for love. Use your power of joy. Leave here today with a goal to shift your thinking about prosperity Envision yourself flourishing in the abundance zone. You are a blessing to the world by circulating your money. Abundant blessings.